Welcome back. This is Kevin McCain with Idaho Art Classes and Kevin McCain Studios. And today we're going to be doing a house in perspective using two-point perspective. Now we've talked before in classes about the horizon line, and that the horizon line, so this is our horizon line, and then our horizon line here, we'll just put HL for short, but this horizon line, actually what it represents is the eye line. So this right here is our little eye, like so. What have you. So it's the eye line. And so this means how high is this eye line? In other words, is the person kneeling? Are they standing? Are they sitting? Are they on a 10-foot ladder? Are they in a 40-foot or a 100-foot building? How far is this eye off the ground? So we're going to start talking today about the idea of how far our eye is off the ground. Now we're going to try, we are going to create a house. And so we're going to make a house. And the house we're going to do for right now is going to be a single level. So from the bottom of the house to the top of the roof line, we'll just say that's going to be 15 feet. Okay? And this person is standing looking at the house so that the horizon line, and I'll just put horizon LN for line. This person's eyes are 5 feet off the ground, and 5 feet's a nice, 5 feet, 6 feet, do easy increments. Don't try to go, yeah, it's, this person's eyes are 54 3/4 inches off the ground. That's just, no one's gonna applaud you if you get, to that sort of nuance. It's just easier. 5 feet, boom. It's good. It's easy. It's very easy to understand. So this is, again, how far the eyes are off the ground. So the horizon line, which equals the eye level, or, and again, the eye level is, again, how far are those eyes off the ground. So the eye level, again, is 5 feet. All right. Now that's the only thing we're going to talk about today, but that makes a big difference because, the eye level, if we have a 15-foot house, and let's say the eyes were 1 foot off the ground. Well, if this was 1 feet, if this was 1 foot right here, well then there'd have to be 14 more of these to the top of the roof line. This is going to go right outside the camera. There's not enough room for that increment. Let's say it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, right on off the, because, if it's only 1 foot off the ground, obviously 14 feet of the house is above your head. Whereas we're going to make it, we're going to make it a 5-foot line. So instead of doing a 1 foot, which I did not set this up for a 1 foot eye level, but it's important to understand that this is 5 feet off the ground. So if I have a person, I'm gonna do a random vanishing point here. But if I have a person that's 5 feet, they're always going to be, their head, let's just make these little stick guys. Or I guess we could go ahead and make them, whatever, more like, some person that's actually, could actually, be a, whatever. But if this is a 5-foot person and he's going back into space, in other words, getting smaller, well, he's, his head is always at the 5-foot mark. Doesn't matter. This is the dumpiest looking person you ever seen in life. But the idea is that no matter how small he gets as he goes further back, his head is always on that eye line. Because it's 5 feet off the ground. This is, so, again, as he gets smaller and smaller and smaller, the head is always on that eye line because it's 5 feet off the ground. This is 5 feet. No matter how small it gets, his head is still at the 5-foot mark. Because, you know, no matter how small it is, this is the ground and that's 5 feet where it hits the horizon line. And of course, coming here and getting bigger, it would be the same thing. That, you know, as this person gets bigger, again, it doesn't matter that they're always going to be. Now all of a sudden he's almost like this is almost in proportion. So this looks more like a person. This looks like, you know, some cartoon character or something. But again, you know, that no matter what, if this is 5 feet, it's always that the top of it will always meet the horizon line because it's 5 feet. Okay. So that's something very important. And what that means for us especially, I'm going to go ahead and reestablish this. Hopefully we don't get too distracted by those guys. Now, this is a 5-foot horizon line, and I don't have my vanishing points, so I'm going to go ahead and put this right here is my left VP. So let's get that established first, and then we'll come back to the eyeline thing. And this over here is the right VP. So a lot of times when I first started drawing, especially with perspective, there were things that I was like, that doesn't, you know, they draw something as a, you know, try to teach a concept. And unfortunately, when I first heard about this in high school, they didn't teach us a whole lot. They taught us, here's how to do boxes. Here's how to do, you know, sort of a basic house. And then good luck. And so we weren't shown a super formal way of using perspective. And it was kind of like, it was almost like they were like, well, just figure it out. And unfortunately, no matter how much I worked at it, I sort of pseudo-avoided really heavy-duty perspective. Not basic stuff, or even basic intermediate stuff, but like cars and buildings and just stuff, because it didn't seem to me to work, or it didn't seem right. I mean, it just didn't seem like it was the answer was eluded me. And the problem was that I just didn't have enough education. So knowledge, drawing is actually a thinking process. It's all about knowledge. And so what I really want to teach you is the stuff that's going to make a difference for your drawing. And this is part of the conversation that wasn't given to me when I first learned about this stuff. That would have made a whole lot more sense to me. Now the first part of this is sometimes you'll see something that's houses, they do this all the time. I don't know why, but they'll put a house way down here below the horizon line. And when you do that, two things happen. First off, the perspective gets really distorted. You start having super amounts of distortion, and it starts to look cartoony. The second thing is the house is being seen from like a 3 or 4 story window. And, you know, usually, you know, at least me, I'm like thinking, well, I'm usually on the ground when I'm thinking about houses. And so it didn't seem to, again, it was one of these things where I just didn't have the knowledge. I wasn't given the knowledge when they were telling us about it. So this is the basic ideas. They didn't talk enough about the eye level. And I wonder if I should get into this as well. And I think I will. When I'm doing a drawing, try to keep your well, this is going to look like a barn or a shed. It's going to be a very simple house. But try to keep it within, you want no more than, maybe I'll do it with this so it's a little bit darker. But the area that you're making your drawing in, you want it to be no more than 50% of the area between your right and left vanishing point. So if I took this space and that space and put them together, is this about a 50-50? If this is a 40-60, even better. If it's a 30-70, even better. But try to keep your, you know what I mean, try to keep your house within, to not use up more than 50% of the area between the vanishing points. We're not going to get into why. There's actually a good reason why, but we don't want to throw that at you just yet, but I just want you to understand that for right now, that's the rule. Try to keep everything so that you have at least 50% of the area between your vanishing points and the amount of room of the object you're drawing. So I wanted to tell you about that. The other thing is we have to get into this is, let's say, now this house is going to be both above and below my eye line. All right, and that's really important. So it's above and below my eye line. And so what that means is that if I said, hey, I've got a house over here, and this is from the ground to that horizon line, well, that's 5 feet. And if I said, well, if this is the ground and that stops at the horizon line, that's also 5 feet. It's just that this is closer to me than this. And if this was also, again, an object that starts here and ends at the horizon line, that's 5 feet. It's just that 5 feet is further away from me than this, and this 5 feet is closer to me than that. All right, so that's the idea, is that the ground is 5 feet up from the ground line. And I'm going to go ahead and use this one right here. But the idea is that if this is 5 feet, if that increment is 5 feet right there, that means this right here is 10 feet. And then this right here, that's 15 feet. Okay. Now here's the thing. If it's all the way up there, is it going to be, am I going to have a house that's just going to be, again, too big? So I think it is. So I'm going to shorten this down a little bit, because that'll still be 5 feet. If this is supposed to be touching the ground, that dot touches the ground. And then I'm just going to say, all right, well, let's go ahead and make sure we've got that distance, because if that's 5 feet, if this is 5 feet, there should be 2 more increments that are that exact same height. So if I took this and I marked off this increment, 5 feet is, what, a third of 15 feet, right? So this would be a 10-foot mark, and this would be a 15-foot mark. So this is this increment again, so that would be 10 feet. And this is 15. Now, I should say that that only counts if it's on this line. If those marks are not on this line, well, there's no telling what it is. It's only on this line, so I'd have to scoot that over. It's only on this line that this works. If the line's in front of this line or behind it, it'd be a different proportion. It would be smaller or bigger, depending on the proportion. It would be the same proportion. In other words, this is a third of this entire increment. So if this was 5 feet right here, that means I'd have, whatever. If this is 5 feet and that's coming up, well then, the house is this far back. Well, then the house is, further back in space, but now it's smaller because it's further from me. This would now be a 15-foot line that's, again, further back. We don't know exactly how far back, like what's the distance between here? We don't know, but we just know that by using this as 5 feet and then taking it 2 more times, that's now 15 feet. So proportionally it would be the same no matter how big or small it is. But that's not the same as being the exact same height in if this is like, I don't know, 5 1/4 inches, obviously something further back from me is not going to be 5 1/4 inches, but it's still going to have the 5 foot should divide into the 15, a 1:3, because it should be the same proportion. All right, so here's my line. Now we're going to go ahead and probably make this will be for the roof. So we're going to start off with our box with the 5 foot and the 10-foot line, and what we're going to do is we're going to take this back to the right and left vanishing point. We're going to make a box, and we need a box that has all the corners. If you guys haven't done the 1 and 2 point perspective, if you're not familiar with 1 and 2 point, you can go to the Kevin McCain Studios, and I've got some videos on 1 and 2 point perspective. You need to know 2 point especially, but you want to understand both in order for this to work. We talk about all kinds of concepts that are very, very important for dealing with perspective. Okay, so this goes back to the left vanishing point. This goes back to the right vanishing point. And again, I'm gonna raise the roof on this literally. So we're gonna start with 10 feet. That'll be the house, and then the other 5 will be the roof line. Now 15 is a little, you might say, well, I don't know if that's not a little much. So we could say, well, I don't know, maybe that's 11 feet. If I divide this into 5 increments, equal increments, well, then that would be 11 feet. But let's try that. Let's go ahead and, I don't know, maybe I'll do the 10. Yeah, I think I'll do the 10. Why not? This is going to go to the right vanishing point, and this is going to go to the left vanishing point. Now we're going to do a 2 point perspective box. So to do a 2 point perspective box, after we've got this object going to the right and left vanishing point, I need to decide how much do I see of one side or the other. Now I'm just going to arbitrarily go, look, this will be my short side and this will be my long side. So I'm going to go ahead and say, well, let's see. I'm going to say that this is how much I see of the house on this side. Okay. And this is how much of the house I see on this side. Maybe about there. Again, this is going to look like a tool shed. This is not going to be an elaborate house. And I'm going to send you some videos of some other ones that you can look at if you want, sort of extra credit, to kind of see if what we can do with the house and all that good stuff. So I need to go ahead and decide, where does the left side stop, where does the right side stop? And it's completely arbitrary. So I just went ahead and just decided what these would be. So we went ahead and we decided this is how deep it is over here and this is how deep it is over there. That's the first part of our box, and now, which is just the right and left side, but we need the back corners as well. So this is both above and below the eye line. And so what we're going to do, now I'm not going to draw the full lines because with 2 point you can really get lost really quickly if you're not careful. And so I'm going to do what's called a bridging the line. In other words, we're only going to draw the line as far as we need to. So I'm going to bring this back this way, and I don't need to attach it. Sometimes people bring it all the way and attach it to that side. Don't do that. That is a really bad idea. Your eye will do all kinds of funky stuff with that, and you start going, wait, what am I looking at? And your brain starts going, what's going on here? And it does not help. It totally throws you off. And so we're just going to bring it. It's always going to be past this line. But if you come halfway, or this is probably 2/3, that's fine. You'll be good. So that I take the top and bottom of the side that's to the left of this front corner, and the top and bottom of this line to the left goes to the right vanishing point. And then we're going to take the top and bottom of the line that's to the right, and the top and bottom, if it's on the right, it goes to the left vanishing point. So we're always going to be, if it's on the right, go to the left. If it's on the left, go to the right. So we have to do that in order for this to work. So we're going to come over here. We're going to come over here. And we're going to get now we only need it to cross. We don't need to keep bringing that line over. All we need is where these two cross. Where those two cross, that's what we're looking for, because that's the back corner. So this right here, do it very lightly, is the back corner. And maybe I'll go ahead and erase this a little bit so I can see that a little bit better. And maybe I'll darken just a little bit. Gotta be careful because this is charcoal, so it doesn't erase as well as, on this paper. So I gotta be extra cautious. But I have to have that back. So this is the front. Right here. And I'm just making these a little darker so that way those won't be as obtrusive to me. And again, this is the front of this house. All right. That's the front. So we only see the left side and the right side. We can't see the top, nor the bottom, nor the back right, nor the back left. But we need it for this next part. Now this is because, again, because of the perspective, all we can see is the right and the left. But we need these two, and that'll become clear in a moment as to why. What we're going to do for this next part is we have to take the top and bottom of this line, pardon me, I'm taking the diagonal. So I'm going from the bottom right up to the top left and the top right down to the bottom left to make an X. X marks the spot. And this is the back plane. This is these are the two planes. They correspond one to the other. This is the front left plane. This is the back left plane. And I'm going to do the same thing on the front left plane. I'm going to go corner to corner. X marks the spot for this next part. So we're looking for X marks the spot. And part of perspective is getting used to seeing and understanding what you're doing. Being able for your brain to process what can be very confusing. So, and this is, you'll understand more about this in a second. That's why I'm prefacing this, because this is where sometimes people get lost. Now what we're going to do is we're going to come to the middle of these X's. And we're going to bring a line straight up. And this line is going to be the roof line. So we're going to bring that up through there and bring that up through there. Now, maybe we can't see that, so I'm going to darken this. So I'm going to go ahead and take this up there and take this up through there. Okay. Now we need to put the roof on. But here's the deal. The roof has to be 15 feet. Now, what we have to do is we have to take this 15 feet. Because this line is further back, it'll be shorter. Because this line is further back, it will be shorter. So somehow we need to get this 15 feet onto that line. And the way we're going to do it is this. We're going to take this line right here. And this is important, so pay very good attention because people get lost on this point sometimes. And if you get lost at this point, man, you are lost for good. Well, maybe not that bad, but you do want to pay attention. So we're going to take this back to the left vanishing point. And the reason we're going to do this, and again, I'm lifting this up above the vanishing points because I have a really dull pencil. So, might as well be a Sharpie marker. So I'm taking this back, and what this is, I've created a plane. This goes to the vanishing point. This is 15 feet. It goes to the vanishing point. So that means anything along this line that connects the top and bottom is 15 feet. So this right here, where those two lines cross, that is 15 feet further back in space. So this right here is now 15 feet. That's shorter because it's further back in space. Now we need to take this line to that line. And here's what happens. People will normally take this line and throw it back onto there and go, aha, I've got 15 feet. Doesn't work that way because this is on the front plane and this is actually around the corner. If you brought this is actually turning the corner and coming back. It's around the corner. So you can't just run a straight line. That's not right. So what we have to do first is we have to get, we could have done that where I could bring it to this side and then hit there and then bring it back to that side to hit there. But that's more work. Why would I do that? I came to the closest one. This is 15 feet. Took it to the left vanishing point. That's now 15 feet. But now I have to take this back to the right. You might say, well, wait a minute. Isn't that as many steps? No, the other one would have taken 3 steps. This takes 2 steps. So it's a little quicker. So we're going to take this 15 feet and we're going to go back to the right vanishing point. And what we're creating is a 15-foot plane now going off to the right, back into space. So now where this crosses that, no, it's the same, no, it's not. It's 2 steps. The other one would have been 3 steps. So we came back this way to make that 15 feet. And then we took this plane, and now this is a plane going back to the, because this is touching here, and we could take that back. We don't need to, because where it touches, we know, hey, that's 15 feet. It touches this plane here, touches that plane there. I could take the bottom back, but we don't need to. I'm just going to take the top to the right, and where this comes across and strikes this line right here, that's 15 feet. Okay, so now we got 15 feet. Again, this is shorter. This is shorter than this because it's 15 feet back in perspective. Okay, we needed that for the roof because we said the roof is 15 feet. Okay, so let's go ahead and make that roof line. What we're gonna do is we're gonna take this dot here and this dot here, and we're gonna take it to that midpoint we just created. And not only that, but we're gonna come away or off the roof a little bit for what we'll call an overhang. So this is going to overhang that roof line a little bit. And for right now, I don't know how much. I'm just bringing it off there. I'll make that decision in a moment. Then we're going to come off of this one, this direction, and let that overhang a little bit. Now that it's touching that back line, that's not cool. So we're going to, and then we're going to take, again, these two and bring them up to that point for the back roof. And this is a way to find the roof without having to deal with much more advanced sorts of perspective ideas. So if it works, why not use it? That's the point. This is then going to be coming off the back. There we go. Finally, my dull pencil's making contact. This is now coming off the back, and it's overhanging. So what we're going to do now at this point is I'm going to go ahead. I just needed enough of this for right now. I'm going to erase and lighten up this back edge. I'm going to go ahead and, well, I'm going to leave the overhang. I'll be able to see that. I'm going to lighten up the line here and the point going up to the top of the roof, and the X marks the spot. We're going to lighten all this stuff because, you know, when you're doing perspective, you're constantly drawing lines over lines. And we're going to constantly be making stuff lighter so it doesn't, you know, it doesn't become distracting or confusing, and it will. If you're drawing a house, this is a simple house, and it can get distracting. If we're drawing a normal house, you're going to have dozens upon dozens of lines next to one another, and it's very easy for your brain to go, wait, what was that? And so we're going to try to make it easier on us. Okay, so now I need to decide the overhang. And I'm going to just, no, this is arbitrary though. I'm just going to say, you know what, this right here, I think is a proper overhang for the house. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go, okay, that's fine. So we'll take this to the right and left vanishing point. So this will go over here till that meets the roof line coming off of there, and this right here is now the overhang. Okay, now we need this overhang to be equal to that, and what we're going to do is we're going to take this and take it to the left vanishing point, and that will give us the same overhang on the left side. Okay, so we're going to take this over, take this over till this crosses that right there, and that's the length of the overhang. All we did was took this to the left, took it to the right, and now we have the same amount of overhang on both sides. Okay, and I can go ahead and get rid of this line now. That was just to give us the initial box. We can go ahead and take this off because that was just to tell us, you know, you can rewind the video a little bit if you need to. I can now start to lighten this line because that was the top of the box that I no longer need. Okay. Pardon me. So what I'm going to do is I need this overhang to be the same all the way around the house. So let's say this was, oh, I don't know, I'll just guess. Let's say that was a 9-foot plane. Well, this is now 9 feet going to here. Whenever we turn a corner, we have to go to the opposite vanishing point. So this first went to the left. Now it needs to turn the corner and go to the right. And then that would bring it back here. And then it would turn the corner again, and it would go from the left coming forward. And you can bring this plane all the way around the house like you're wrapping a present with a ribbon. So let's do that. I'm going to take this. So whenever we change direction, because this is supposed to be 90 degrees. These are supposed to be 90 degrees to one another. Now it's splayed open because it's in perspective. But if you took that piece of plywood or board that you're putting on that house, it would be cut at 90 degrees. You know, it would be at 90 degrees. And so that's important for us to understand that we're dealing with 90-degree angles. I first went to the left to get us here. Now we're going to go to the right to go behind the house. So get this lined up with the vanishing point. And I'm going to go ahead and what this will give me is it'll give me that little return which I need. But I could also make the, make the little line, the broken line of this being this line going behind the house. And so, this right here, again, remember a broken line says, hey, it's a line that exists, but you can't see it. So where this hit right there, that's the same overhang as it is over here. And then to check to see if we did it properly, we can come, we were going to the right to get back to here, and then we're going to go from the left and come forward with it. And this is part of what this helps us to do. This is a really good exercise to help you start to think about casting backwards and forwards into space. It really is just such a good exercise. So this came all the way around. So this was, again, a 9-foot plane all the way around the house. This gives me this return here. This gives me this return there. Now, and this line is unneeded. That line is, all right. So now I've got this went all the way around the house. Took it from here, went to the left until it hit there, then took it to the right until it hit there at that roof junction, and then we took it from the left, from that point coming forward. It hit the same point as where it was when I took it from here and cast it off to the right. So we all know that we did a good job. It all works out. And so now, again, the overhang is fine, and I'm going to go ahead and lighten all these different lines that are now unneeded. And I'm going to darken the lines that are needed. So, again, part of this is trying to keep, clear on what we're doing. Again, with perspective by hand, you got so many steps. If you're not careful, you're going to get lost. But you can do the same thing with this. If I was doing something in some sort of vector program, again, and you know how to do houses and stuff, you can lay out your own vanishing points. You can go ahead and build a house using the ideas of perspective without having to hope that CAD is going to do what you want it to do or what have you. And you can also play with all kinds of parameters and distortions that most programs, unless you get into the back end, are going to have presets. And so instead of the computer calling the shots, you're the one calling the shots. That's the whole reason of learning this stuff by hand, because by learning perspective, you develop an internal 3D program. You're the most powerful CPU on Earth, the human brain. Well, I guess some people could go ahead and might argue that point, but whatever. For humans, I don't care if a computer can do better, quicker, faster. It's not a part of us. It's not a part of humanity. And for me, drawing is a very human experience. It's something that, again, is about who we are. And so that's what's important to me, is the fact that it's the touch, it's the human touch in this stuff. It was the great minds that created the computers. It was great minds that broke the code of perspective hundreds of years ago. People don't realize it, but there's drawings from the 14th century that you swear is a wireframe drawing from a modern day 3D program. No, it was done by candlelight and by feathered pen, by quill pen, back in the 15th century, because this stuff has been around for a long, long time. It's just that now that we've developed computers that can keep up with it and actually use it very, very effectively. So now we have our little box with our little house. Okay, now we're going to do something else here. We're actually going to have we're going to create a sidewalk on here. And I want you to understand, I mean, we could manipulate this if we want to. Wouldn't be that big a deal. Once you understand perspective, again, it wouldn't be any sweat or anything. It'd be no big deal. But we're going to make a house that has no frontage on it. No one would ever buy this house because there is no yard between the house and the concrete. So we're going to do this simple house, and people use it all the time. But if I wanted, like, this will be the concrete, the back edge. We're going to do the front edge. But if we wanted there to be frontage, we'd bring these lines out and we'd give ourselves some grass. We're just not going to do that. We're not going to take the time to do that for this drawing. So I'm going to go ahead and bring this straight down, because this will be the seam where the right and left concrete come together. This will be that seam. And so we're going to then go ahead and go, all right, well, this is going to go off to the left and right. This will be this concrete on a sidewalk that goes way, 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 way back to the vanishing point. All right. And this is going to go back here. And again, all this means that this is the sidewalk. And again, we're not worried about the sidewalk right now, keeping it in proportion. This is one of these things where that would happen, and I'd be like, wow, that's not the way I see things. That doesn't look right. And therefore I'd be like, well, that must mean nothing here is right. And that's not true. So the sidewalk, just to be this way, this sidewalk would have to be like 10 feet deep. 10 feet from here to the to the house, or maybe 12. I mean, it's really, in order for this to be the same perspective, this is huge. I mean, we're taking this, and we could take this on that 5-foot line, and we're like, wow, that's, if that's how big that is in perspective going back, that means that's a lot of footage. That's a lot of real estate on that sidewalk, and that's all right for right now. This will be somewhat cartoony because, again, there's some factors we haven't talked about that we talk about in other classes, where we can start to develop and understand exactly what the distortion is. And I could set exactly, well, if this is a house and that's 5 feet tall, and I need a concrete that's 3.5 feet wide, boom, we can make concrete that's 3.5 feet wide. But for right now, we're gonna go ahead and do it this way. Sort of this cartoony sort of look. So again, we have these are touching. So we came here to create this, and then we just brought this line and brought it all the way till it touched here, and this line through here till it touched all the way here. This right here is our first slab of concrete. So that right there is my first slab of this concrete, and we're gonna take something and learn something called doubling. And so we're going to learn how to double in space, and it's a very powerful concept. So what we're going to do is, we're going to take this, and we're going to take this, and we're going to go corner to corner, corner to corner. Now these two corners are already there. We've already got a diagonal that connects those two corners. What we're going to do now is we're going to take the other two corners, and we're going to connect those corners. All right, so we're going to go ahead and connect. Whoops. Still not there. Like I said, this pencil I'm using is really dull. And split the difference. Okay, there we go. There we go. So this right here is the middle. So what we're going to do for here to double, we have to have a center line. So we're going to take this point, and we're going to go to the right vanishing point and the left vanishing point with a center line. So this is a little lighter. Hopefully we can see that. I think I'll darken it maybe with this guy a little bit. Try to use graphite, but on this newsprint it doesn't show up too well. So That's now going there. And this is now going out the door along with part of the household. This is now going to the left vanishing point. Over here. Okay. We need where this is a center line going to the right and a center line going to the left. And what we need to double this over, and what we're trying to double over is this rectangle going back in space. And here's how this works. We're going to take this dot through where this center line passes through this outside edge. So this is the outside edge of this rectangle, right? And where that center line touches at that point, we're going to come from this corner through that point till it hits this line. And so let's do that. Let's take this from this corner through the middle of that dot till it hits that line. So we hit the line right here. Okay, now this is a measurement. Okay, understand that where we went through here, through there till it hit here, that's a measurement. So what we have to do is we now have to get this to come out. So what we're going to do is we're going to take from the left vanishing point through that point and come forward, and that will be our next division of the concrete going back into space. Okay, so let's go ahead and get that lined up. We're going to get this lined up, and we're going to go ahead and whoops, not quite. Bring this forward. There we go. Like so. So this is the next piece of concrete. It's this thickness doubled over. And it's thinner because it's going back into space. Now for us to do this again, here's where that center line crosses this outside edge. There's the point. So we're going to take from this corner through there till it hits this line once again. So let's do that. Let's go ahead and take this point. This point through that point till it hits right here. So there's our next, and this is a measurement once again. Now these diagonals are not going to be the same. If you take this out, you're going to start to see that this diagonal each time is going to start to, kind of like the hands of a clock, turn back on itself. And that's fine. If it's not doing that, you're probably in trouble because it should be doing something like that. So we're going to take this from the left through that dot we just marked on the outside edge or the back edge of that concrete, and we're going to bring it forward. Now again, the first time we do this, a lot of times people are like, no way, look how thin we are. That can't be the same. It is. And it has a few things to do with it. Part of the fact is how big our object is between the two vanishing points. Part of it is how big I made the sidewalk. So there's some things that are exaggerating this, but these are all the same amount of space, the same, distance going back in two-point perspective. And this is called Xing and doubling. So once again, all we have to do, this is the point right there. And so we have this corner through there till it hits the back edge. And see how this is turning, this is now angling back and in on itself. This would then go from there through there till it hits there. Pardon me. That's just a measurement. So we come from the left vanishing point through that point and come forward. So we could continue to do this each and every time because we're continually going to have, whenever we make another line, we're going to cross that center line. Okay, so we cross that center line, and this is now the next amount of space. So again, this space is getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller as it goes back into space. Okay, back away from us. Now again, we still have where the middle hits the outside edge. We could go from here to there to there. And again, we can see, look what's happening with this diagonal. I told you how this diagonal was going to start to turn on itself like the hands of a clock, and that's what it's doing. Okay, so this is now this this rectangle. Maybe we'll do this, so make it like a checkerboard or something. But on this we're really starting to see. This also shows us how you might. When I said this was maybe 15 feet deep, you're probably like, no way. But look at how this rectangle started looking. You might be like, oh wow, yeah, that does look like that's really going really far back in there. Right now, this is thin like a razor blade. There's no depth on this thing, or in other words, there's no, this would almost like be painted because it doesn't have any height. Curbing. There's no curbside. It's just right now it's this plane. It might as well be painted in the street. So we could come over here and we could go ahead and make a thickness on this sidewalk going back away from us in space. So now that has a thickness, right? This is the curb of the sidewalk. And again, we can take the curb back this way to the far distant vanishing point. And again, this would be the curb. Now this actually has dimension. Before it was just this flat, razor flat plane. Let's do a couple this way. So this is where, like I said, we're going to go ahead and do a couple this way. So again, we have where this touches the outside edge. That's the center line. This is our corner, and we're going to go from the center line, or pardon me, we're going to go from the corner through the center line till it touches that far back edge of the concrete. Okay, that's better. Okay, so this right here is the next division. We're going to take it from the right there, and we're going to bring it forward. Okay. There we go. So this here is that next division in the concrete. Let's darken the division so we don't get lost in all the lines. And this is what I mean. I mean, we can get really, really lost in these lines very, very, very quickly. There's an inside cutout here that I'm using as well as a straight edge. So that right there. This right here. Again, we could put these lines in here. Like so. And again, this is my next one. Now again, this next one has where that crosses that back corner. Pardon me, where this midline touches the outside edge of this slab of concrete. So we're going to go from this corner through here till it hits to that back edge. So we're going to go ahead and line those up. There we go, that hits the back edge of the concrete right there. We're then going to take this from the right vanishing point. That's not long enough. Take this from the right vanishing point and bring this forward. Again, this, sometimes, when people are doing this, like, why are we doing this? It seems silly. This isn't a real house. Why would I do this? This seems like this could be a waste of my time. How dare you suggest such a thing? And again, the reason we're doing this is to build your own 3D program in your brain. It really helps you to understand and develop perspective, understanding. Again, this is still, there's the outside edge of that next rectangle. This is the corner we then take from this corner through there, and we'll see that this, again, what's happening with the diagonal is going to start to turn back and in on itself as this is going away from us, like so. And this then again would be over here. Okay. And when you learn this stuff, all of a sudden the lights begin to come on. That's the whole point of this thing. You'd be like, oh yeah. And so I'll tell you what, when I first learned this Xing and doubling, I was like, okay, yeah, it's kind of weird. It's kind of bizarre. The way the concrete is getting smaller, I don't know if that's the way it seems to me. Therefore, this is probably just something that I don't need to listen to. And I can't... if only I could go back to younger me and say, look, you idiot, what are you thinking? But I had to learn it the hard way. This Xing and doubling is the most important concept for hand drawing perspective scenes. If you're going to go out and draw a cityscape or an interior scape or whatever, and you don't know how to double and X, and doubling by making X marks the spot and then taking a center line to the vanishing point, you have got issues. You're going to have problems. You're not going to be able to do it with any sort of sophistication. And this was not told to me. Again, it was not told to me how important that right there is. This Xing and doubling method, it is omni-important for doing all kinds of things when dealing with perspective. It is such a great concept. We're going to do one last thing. We're going to do a couple more things, and we're going to call this done. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to say, all right, let's go ahead and put a fence. And I could say a 5-foot fence, but then it'd be a flat line all the way around it, so I don't want to do that. Let's make it a 6-foot fence. Or maybe, let's say we cut this in half. That'd be 7.5. What if we cut that in half again? So maybe that's a foot and a quarter or something like that. So, and whenever you take measurements, you always take it from this front edge. This front edge is where you take all measurements. If you can't get to the front edge for some reason, go to the back corner and do your measurements there and bring them forward. But these are the corners that are facing towards us. This one and that one. And that's the one you would want to use, is either the front or the back. Okay, but we're going to come over here and we'll say, all right, well, this right here is about, say that right there is about a 6-foot fence. And if that's 6 feet, it would take this to the vanishing point on the left, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to start a 6-foot slat fence, and the 6-foot fence is going this direction. So this is 6 feet. Now again, we're not worrying right now about how far is that 6 feet. We're sitting back into space. For now, we just know that this is 6 feet because on this line, if this is 5 and that's 1 of 5 increments, well then that's 7 feet. It's a guesstimation. Pardon me, 6 feet. It's a guesstimation, but it's going to be close. And when we're sketching, a lot of times that's what we're doing. We're guesstimating. That's all. That's all we're doing. So I'm going to go ahead and just I'm going to end this right here. So I just made an arbitrary decision. That's how far the fence line goes. This is now the top and the bottom of that fence line. Now what we need to do is we need to take that fence line back across our property, and we have to make sure we don't come through the back corner of the house. That's why I kept that there. I didn't erase it entirely. But what we're going to do now, so we're going to take this from the back, what's the back corner of the fence, because it was going to the left. This fence line was going to the left. But now it needs to turn a right-hand corner. And so if it was going to the left, now it needs to go 9 degrees and turn a corner. It's got to go back to the right. So we're going to take this and take this back to the right. And what this is doing is this is going to bring this back into space. What that means is it's going to recede away from me. And it's going to get smaller. So again, this is a great concept of learning how to take stuff back into space. So again, as this comes back here, it's going to get smaller. If we measure this line, which is still this fence line, and if we measured it, this right here is smaller than that right there. Now right now it's lining up with what it was originally the back corner of the house. I don't know that I like that. In turn, you know, even though we wouldn't see it, I don't like the tangency, so I'm going to bring it over here so that they don't line up. And now this would be, we're just going to put a dot here. This is the back corner that's gotten further away and smaller. We just pushed it over on the, it's still on the plane. It's going to the right. But now it needs to turn right, a right-hand corner again. So we stopped it here. It was going to the right, so now it needs to come from the left and come forward. So first we pushed it back. Now we're going to bring it forward. So we're going to line this up to the left vanishing point. And it's now turning the corner. And what that means, by turning this corner, it's going to come back towards us. The line will get bigger. So we're going to bring this back. And remember, this fence line touches the concrete. So we're going to bring this back until this touches the concrete, which is right about there. And I'm going to take this one too, from that left vanishing point, back corner of the house, bring this forward. Now if you notice something, this is getting bigger. As this comes forward, this is getting longer, wider, bigger, taller, because it's coming forward in space. So what we're going to do is we kind of hovered this. I just stopped it over here because I know that I'm going to draw a vertical line up. So now I'm going to draw this vertical line and attach the two. And again, if I look at this line here and look at this line here, this one's smaller, that one's bigger. That means this one came forward. Now what we have to do is we're gonna connect this to the house. The fence right now is open. You need to connect it to the house. So I'm going to take the top and bottom. Now this line already goes to the house. This is already right into the house. So truly we just need the top. Because this is already going, whoops, the back of the concrete. This is our, this is already attaching to the house. So the bottom of it's already there. So really all we need is this line right here. So what we're going to do, and again we're going to take, we need to turn, because we're coming from coming from the left, coming forward, getting bigger. Now we're going to turn from the right, and this is already going to the right, so we already know that's correct. And we're going to take this, line this up to the right vanishing point, line that up to the top of the fence line, and bring this forward. And again, it's going to get bigger still. Okay. This is now bigger. And in fact, I wouldn't see all this. All this would be a checkered line. But I wanted you to take that where we started here. And a lot of times people wouldn't measure the slats. They wouldn't, double the, they would just do something where they go, okay, these slats are bigger, whoops, that's too much. But getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. Whoops. This didn't progress too well, did it? But anyways, they would just go, okay, this is a fence. These are slats getting smaller as they go back. That's a mistake. And a couple of these are as well. But anyways, this would be, again, these slats. So these slats getting smaller and smaller as they get further and further away from us in perspective. As this, fence line again is, going further and further away to the right. And this is normally how people would do it in renderings. They're just like, as long as it's getting smaller as it goes back, and as long as it doesn't look like it's getting too small too quickly, then I'm fine. We don't need to like X and double every slat. Okay. And we do the same thing over here. These slats are, if I was worried about it, you'd say, all right, well, let's go ahead and mark this off. That'll be there, and that'll be about there, and that'll be about there, and that'll be about, you know, there, and that'll be about there, and then this will be, you know, so it's just gonna get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, going back into space on that fence, and we could say, all right, if I needed to, I could say, and those were just marks if I was worried about it and having a rough day and didn't think they were gonna, you know, quite make it the grade, I could then go ahead and just do the marks first and then put the slats on. Okay. Again, these slats are getting smaller. The widths get smaller as they go further and further away from us. And so forth and so on. So, you know, again, get out the eraser, take this out a little bit. But there we go. That's the slats of the. Oh, they're not getting light enough. I'm going to have to continue them on. So just getting smaller, smaller, smaller. So again, fence line. So now it has a fence. It's got a sidewalk. We've got the house. And again, I've seen this assignment around so much that I don't know who established this. This was, you know, but I've seen it taught in so many different places. This exact same tool shed that I don't know. This must have been like in one of the older books. There was a time because of the modern art movement where a lot of this stuff was lost through the 60s and 70s, and it just became worse and worse. And so there had to be sort of there's a point at which people had to try to learn this once again, because it was almost lost. It was almost wiped out. Seen as, oh, it's just so passé. Who would do this anymore? We're going in a new direction. It doesn't matter. And so even like, but thank goodness they weren't able to wipe it all the way out. That would have been a shame. But I'm just saying there must be a book that has this exercise, because that's how they found it. It was through books. But anyways, I just see this a lot. But here's what we're going to do. We're going to always take our measurements from that front corner. So let's say we want to do doors and windows. And I said, well, this is a 5-foot door. Well, obviously doors are bigger than 5 feet. This is 6 feet, somewhere about here. That's about 6. And let's say we did like a 7-foot doorway. So maybe this right here is a 7-foot doorway. Well, now what we can do is we can cast a 7-foot line upon either plane and put a doorway in. So maybe I want only one door, maybe I'd want 2 doors, but no matter what, I could take this and take it to the vanishing points. And again, I guesstimate this to be about 7 feet. And this right here is the doorway. Now sometimes, a lot of times in stuff like this, if you're doing a very formal house, you're going to do it, you know, on a tracing page, or you're going to, you know, do where you work out all your issues, your problems, your goods, so that all you have is the really nice looking stuff left. But let's say we wanted some windows too, and let's say I said, well, let's say the windows started about 3 feet, and if I want to, I could, you know, divide this into 5 if I really wanted to, or I could just go, you know what, I'm going to guesstimate this, so I'm going to divide it into 4, which means each one of these is now about 1.25 feet. And then you say, well, let's see if that's, you know, so if you say, well, that's 1.25 feet, that's 2.5 feet, and that's 3 3/4. So maybe we have a window that starts at about 3, and so I'll just drop it down. Again, these are guesstimations, but I say, okay, so the window starts at about a 3-foot line, or just above 3 feet. That's not a bad place to start. And maybe it stops just about at an 8-foot line. So maybe we'll just say, well, this is probably about 8 feet right there. And again, so if this right here is the window that starts at is 3 feet off the ground and 8 feet off the ground, well then again I could take this and cast it either to the right or left. And again I'm going to have this plane that I could go ahead and make, into this is the window plane where the window could be, and I could just drop 2 lines wherever I want to make a window, which is kind of funny. You'd say, okay, that right there is the top of the window, and this right here would be the bottom of the window. Off we go. All right, so we've got our 3 foot off and 8 foot up, going over here. Now here's what people will do. They'll be like, I want a door, and let's say I want to center my door. How can I center my door? Well, don't get these planes mixed up, but I could say, well, look, if I need the door in the center, I can take corner to corner and corner to corner, and I'm looking for that original box. So this is the line of that original box, that 10-foot box. And so we're going to take that corner to corner, corner to corner, and again, this right here is then the middle of that box. Now it's called perspective middle. If I measured this is going to be, like, let's drop this line, like drop a line there, a light line. But if I measure this line from the front corner to the back corner, this distance here is wider than that distance there. And it's because of foreshortening, that this space gets shorter as it goes back and away from us into space, into 3D space, 3-dimensional space. And so this is called perspective middle. It's the true middle, but this gets shorter because of foreshortening. So with perspective middle, there's always more room from the front edge to the middle than from the middle to the back edge. And that's referred to as perspective middle. So if I wanted to do a doorway, now this is the cool part about Xing and doubling and or mirroring, because this is also, you can use it to mirror, which is an assignment we do in the first drawing class. But let's say I said, all right, I want to go ahead and make this my door, and this is only half the door. I want this to be the same, so it's spaced evenly off this center line. Well, guess what I've got right here? I've got a center point. Oh, that wouldn't work. It's the center of this, but it's not. I need the center from this little rectangle. So this is half the door. So again, I would still go corner to corner. So corner to corner, corner to corner, and you mark the half. Whoops. Let's go ahead and go corner, 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 corner. Halfway point. Okay, and we'll say this right here is the middle. And this middle has to go to the right vanishing point and connect to this middle line. We need that to do what's called mirroring, or in other words, we're going to double it. We're going to take this amount and we're going to double it over. So we're going to take, this is our center line. Now, I'm not going to draw the whole center line, but this is exactly what we did here. We came from this X, and this is our center line, and it hits here. Okay. Hopefully everyone knows what's going to happen now. I can come from either this corner until it hits that line, or from this corner until it hits that line. But that will give me, that will double over, that will mirror or double over. It's doing the same thing, it's just 2 different terms for what's essentially the same thing. That hits there. Then we're going to go ahead and bring this down. So what we've done here is we went ahead and took and mirrored. We took this distance and we mirrored it over. And what we used was the center point. So because we wanted it mirrored off this line. That was our center line. So what I did was I went corner to corner, corner to corner, found X marks the spot, right? And then I took that to the vanishing point till this hit the outside edge. And then I took from the corner through that point and hit here. What I did was the exact same thing we did here, except this is on the horizontal plane, and this right here is on the vertical plane. And now we've got the doorway. So we'd say, okay, this door is now nice and symmetrical off that center line. Again, there's certain little things that I was never told that would have been like rocked my world. I would have been just crazy. I would have been a much better artist much more quickly. Okay, so we'll go ahead and make the doorway. All right, so here's what we're gonna do next. We have our windows. And let's say we want our windows. Now this is the other thing. Sometimes people are like, I want my window and I want my window to be centered. So let's say we said, all right, this is our 8-foot line. This is our 3-foot line. And all we need to do is we need to go ahead and drop a vertical line for a window, right? Okay. So this is now these again are painted on. They don't have any depth. If I want this to go in, there's going to be a little depression. So this would go in a little bit. Again, there's going to be a windowsill, so this would go in a little bit. So we want to be thinking about that as we get comfortable with perspective. We want it because all right now everything is just flat and stuck on, just like that concrete was before we put a thickness. Okay, so this is our little window. And again, people are like, well, wait a minute. All right. And so people are like, how can I get this window and the other one centered? Oh, is this cool? And it's basically using doubling. Again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, and we're going to use this center point. I just realized I could have done this for the door, but don't worry about it. This got us to the same place. We're going to do this one so that we don't have to do what we did with the door. We're going to take the two sides and we're going to connect it to the entire 10-foot plane. So I'm going to very lightly, very gently bring these lines up so I can go, okay, so it meets top and bottom. Because we need the center point for this entire box. It's easier rather than trying to get this center and doing it. It's just more steps. So I took this up to this connected here. I took this down to where that connected there. Took this up to that connected there. Took this down to that connected there. Okay, so we've got this 10-foot plane connected. And because this is now points on my 10-foot plane, I can use this center point. Ooh, is this cool? So what I'm going to do is to mirror this, I'm going to go from here through this center point right here. I'm using that original center point of the 10-foot box. These are now points on the 10-foot box. So I can take this corner here, go through that center point for the 10-foot box, because here's the deal. If this is the true middle, which we said it was, and I use a diagonal from this point right here, what this does is this is the diagonal of a rectangle. So this diagonal to that midpoint and this part of the diagonal to there, we'll bring this up. This now equals this because what it's done is it's made an equal, it's split, you know, it's mirrored the rectangle equally. So that would mean that this line, this space has now been mirrored over here by using the center point. Because if I pass through that center point with a diagonal, wherever this going through that diagonal meets this line, that's the corner of my rectangle. We made essentially a little rectangle here. And all we did was use that center point to then double that rectangle over once again. So this would be this edge is now that edge of the window. The window starts now right here. People go, where does it end? Well, isn't this cool? We can do it we can use the same point again because this is an edge here, and we're going to go through that middle with a diagonal, and that's going to give us the back. The back of the window where it should be. So we're going to go ahead and set this up. We're going to come from this point now. Before we came from this one. Now we're going to come from this one. Okay, we're going to come from that point through the midpoint of, again, this 10-foot plane, which is this one. And we're going to go ahead and line that up. Bring that through there. Whoops. Bring that through there. Nope. Again, I've got this pencil. It's so dull. Okay, there we go. Goes through there. I'm going to check it with a different pencil just to be safe. Okay, so we're going to come from here. Missed it just a bit. Go here. There we go. That's better. From here, this point up here, down through the midpoint until it hits there. So this right here, what have we done? We've doubled this outside. So we now had this space, this wider space too. So we took from here through there to here, and guess what? Now we've got this wider. We've taken this amount here and we've doubled that over. So we're going to take this point and bring it up. And what we've done is we've doubled this over, and we actually have the perfectly symmetrical, these windows off of one another. And it also has perfectly diminished. Using that center point, we have diminishment. Xing and doubling, and that's just basically what we've done. It's also sometimes referred to as mirroring, but it's the same thing. We can use concepts that give us all kinds of information that we wouldn't think of normally. Like when someone showed me this, I was like, holy smokes! Why didn't someone show me that before? And then I got to get a big, long-winded explanation, but essentially they just didn't know it. They didn't have enough perspective experience, because again, a lot of this, except in architecture school, they talk about this, but in fine art classes, this stuff wasn't being talked about anymore because, again, of the modern art movement. And so now, again, we've gone ahead, and now I have two windows that are equally spaced off that door. Very, very, very cool. And if I wanted this door to go in, like it's recessed a little bit, and if I wanted to put like a, what do they call this? The base for the doorway. There's a name for the base of the doorway, and it escapes me right now. The threshold, I believe. But if we wanted to make a threshold on here, we have to go from these points, and this would project in a little bit to have a little depth. It would come in towards the left vanishing point. Okay, from there it would come up, and I would have to decide the depth, and then it would come up, right? And then from there, to know where it stops, I would take this corner and take that corner, this corner of the doorway, and go to the left vanishing point with it. And where that diagonal strikes that little line we just made, and it's not very much because it's not very far in, where the two meet, that would then, I'd see just a little bit of the top of this. And now we take this little point where this corner meets that line, and we'd come from the right vanishing point, and we're basically making this a recessed, this door is recessed a little bit, which is what they would do. They wouldn't just, leave a flat door so it's completely lined up with it like it's a piece of paper stuck on the wall. It's going to go in a bit. So we'd go ahead and totally missed that line. I mean, it wasn't even close. So we go ahead and come off of this thing. There we go. So we'd see just a little bit of the top of the linter, I think is what that's called. But anyways, or is it the linter's the side? But anyways, yeah, maybe but anyway, so we have now the doorway is going in, and we could do the same thing with these windows. This would come in a little bit, that would come in a little bit, and we'd see a little bit of the bottom, a little bit of the side, a little bit of the top, and we could go ahead and turn this into a door. Maybe there's recessed panels in the door. We could really get into that, have some fun with it. The other thing is we want to realize is that right now, again, this is flat, this is flush, this doesn't project. This all is in line. This is completely trimmed down. So this is all in line. Usually the roof will come forward a little bit. There'll be an overhang. And so if we wanted to make an overhang, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to come from the right vanishing point, like so. And we could overhang both sides as well. But again, I'm not going to worry about how to do it. Well, how do you do it symmetrically off both sides? We're going to just do a guesstimations. There are ways of doing it. It would be multi-stepped. About an extra 20 steps, 30 steps. So we don't want to burden you with that just yet, and make your brain melt out, your ears, and roll down the side of your phase. That's not good. We don't want that. So we're going to go ahead and just bring these forward a little bit, like so. And again, I would do the same thing off the back. But anyway, so we attach that to this corner, which is not good. Because again, I'm not going to use all that. That's coming forward, I think, too far. But I think we're going to say, all right, this will come forward about this much. And then all we'll do is we're going to say, all right, we're going to go ahead and take this, make this angle parallel to that angle. For the most part, I'm just going to go ahead and keep it nice and parallel. If we wanted to, we'd actually drop this straight down and we could do some stuff like that, but that's just, we're not going to do that. We're just going to keep this almost pretty close to parallel to that. This isn't quite parallel. It's getting smaller as it goes back, and that's not what we want. Oops, like there. There we go. So that's now projecting forward a little bit. We could project this off the back a little bit. Again, that's all we need to do. Just go ahead and, all right, a little less than we did on the front. A little less than we did on the front. Right? And then we're just going to go ahead and go take this up. Can keep it parallel pretty much to that line. As far as that goes. Like so. Okay, it's gonna be a smaller chunk because it's getting further away from us back into space. So we're trying to give a nod to the perspective. Now if I wanted to, I could put an X on here. As far as that goes. But we're not going to do that. But you could actually use this doubling method. There's a way of doing it. But again, that we don't want to take all those extra steps to do that right now. We'll teach you that at some point. But again, Xing and doubling is by far the most powerful concept you will learn when it comes to perspective drawing. It will blow your mind how you use it, and you'll be like, whoa, I never thought of that. And it's like, yeah, you wouldn't think of it if someone didn't show it to you. It's something that isn't just going to come naturally. You actually have to learn it. And then when you learn it, you go, holy smokes, I would have never thought about that. And it happens all the time. And when you're doing art, we're like, oh my goodness, wow, that's, and so again, there's all these little things that really seem pretty benign. But if you have a good instructor, be like, yeah, you know what you can do with this? And they keep teaching you, and they keep teaching you and teaching you. You're like, holy smokes. And the next thing you know, you're like, you can draw whatever you like. You want some houses drawn? No problem. You want some cars drawn? No problem. What you got anything hard? No big deal. I can do whatever you like. And that's, again, part of this is so that if you're, again, let's say I wanted to be like, I wanted to be in the gaming industry. Wouldn't that be fun? Well, again, you're like, well, I can go ahead and I can imagine it, and then I can hand it off to the renderer, my little sketch, after I've done the concept, and they can then go, if I've done it right, they can actually develop an entire rendering just from your rendering. And again, if you can do that, people are like, wow, we want that guy. That's because very few people have that skill. They might be like, well, I'm going to open Bryce or something and do some wizardry in it, but in terms of, or some other program, they probably have something besides Bryce these days. But, or something like that, or instead of using CAD or some sort of, Strata Studio or something like that, which these are programs we used 20 years ago to do this sort of stuff. But, if you could do it by hand, all of a sudden you're like, wow, that guy can do it without the computer. We want that guy. So again, we've kind of taken this up, this way a little bit. This now projects off that away. Again, sometimes people are like, wait, the side stretches. Well, it'll do that. And it does that because of the laws of perspective. That this would actually stretch a little bit. This also you wouldn't be like, well, I don't normally see that. Well, you would if it wasn't for the fact that you'd also have 2x4 that they would also, pull this down. The fascia, if that's the word, fascia, on the front of this thing, if you put the fascia on there, again, all of a sudden you'd be like, oh wow, okay, that looks like a roof. But this right now this roof extends, and this roof is, extending the same amount on either side. And I'm just checking. It seems like this roof is bending down just a little bit. It looks like I got a little bit of that. And as that came down, let's see, that's now coming. So we can just go ahead and go, all right, well, fine. You know, and we'll take that, and then we're going, okay, what was this? And is that parallel? And I think it's opening up just a scotch, which is making it feel like it's coming out even more than what it actually is. And so this is how we want to do this little house. Now you can also do it, you know, this a fun one is where people will go over here and they'll go, okay, and over here off the house we've got you know, some sort of little light post. A lot of times people will make this like some sort of power line, you know, sort of thing, or one of these old ones from, you don't see these around anymore. You usually get the bigger lines, but there was a time you had many more poles with power lines around the country, and you get these small ones that then connected to the house. And so this goes up vertically, and then this would have a cross member up here. Cross member would go into the left vanishing point. So you go ahead and make this, and that, and then you go ahead and make this into an ellipse on that one, and you'd make this into an ellipse here as far as that goes. Okay, so we'd make you know, an ellipse on here like so, and like so, and all right, so now we've got these. Or if we didn't want to make them elliptical, we'd go ahead and turn this instead into a, you know, boxy instead of round. This seems like this doesn't stretch near far back enough, but we're just going to go ahead and, again, we're not going to lose too much sleep over that. And something like that. But again, if this was our little telephone pole, we can now take, you know, and make more of these telephone poles, you know, and there'd be some connectors here where this would then come. And again, this is sort of an old type where they'd bring power up to this guy and then power down into the house. But and this would probably point this way. So yeah, I could turn this and go, you know what, this looks kind of weird. Maybe I'm going to point this out, so it'd go to the right and come out that way. Because yeah, you'd think that this would actually be 90 degrees to that, which would look better. But then you could just do, you know, start to put spaced telephone poles further and further away, all that good stuff. So this is doing a house in perspective. I want you guys to, that are in the Drawing 2 class Part A, I want you to get out the biggest piece of paper you have. You're going to use your T-square. If you have a triangle, now if you don't have a triangle, it just means you're going to be switching the T-square, you know, like this. But this is going to save you a lot of time. So you're going to take the triangle, your pencil, and give me a house following this video. And again, you can pause it, make a few marks, rewind, pause, play, and get this all figured out. And it's really a great way to open your eyes to a much larger world. So again, this has been Kevin McCain with Idaho Art Class and Kevin McCain Studios. And you know, I hope you guys will get out there and be more creative. And thank you so much for watching the video on drawing a house in perspective. So you guys have a good one, and bye-bye now.